Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. Spoiler season has exploded. There's a lot of things going on, including an absurd number of spoilers. It seems like Wizards does it sometimes. They're like, day 1, blah, and then it's like day 2, day 3, blah, day 4. So we'll see what happens this year, but yeah, we've got a lot of spoilers to go through, including some that could be considered by some to be staples. Yeah, some really powerful ones. Let's jump into it. So first up, Final Showdown. Partner? I don't know. Anyways, Final Showdown is an instant for a single white mana, but it's got the little plus sign on it, so we know this is a spree card, right? Because you've seen my previous 2 episodes where I talked about spree cards. You haven't seen them. Okay, make sure you go see those after this. Don't leave this yet. Anyway, spree basically means choose 1 or more additional cost, so kicker with hoops. Kicker kind of entwining, I guess, a little bit. Anyways, +1 extra mana. All creatures lose all abilities until end of turn. I love that. That is spicy. So spicy. We're not done yet, though. Pay an extra 1. Choose a creature you control. It gains indestructible end of turn. And add 3 white. Destroy all creatures. So this is a card that is very flexible in that you can utilize it for, well, just basically 2 mana to make all creatures lose all abilities on turn, which is spicy. You can do another one to give a creature control indestructible on turn. And correct me below in the comments if I'm wrong on this, rules lawyers out there. I believe that the way that these things stack is that they go 1 at a time. So basically everything will lose all abilities. Then you could give a creature indestructible, and then you would destroy all creatures. So essentially, you don't just waste out on utilizing that give a creature indestructible to make it lose all abilities. Like, the way it would stack is that essentially you would save one of your creatures. So this can be basically like a one-sided board wipe that also can get around, well, indestructible creatures, except for your own, which you're saving. I guess it's not really all one-sided because you're getting rid of all your other creatures, but like saving one creature, kind of like whatever that 1 to fairy one is, where it's like you're bouncing one creature and destroying the rest, kind of like that. Being able to save one creature, destroy all the rest, and also get rid of pesky creatures that your opponents have that are indestructible, can regenerate, whatever it is, or have other activated abilities, that's quite spicy. Even just getting rid of every creature's activated or all abilities until end of turn can be incredibly impactful just for 2 mana. So again, this is a card that's very flexible. Again, on the low end, sure, save a creature, give it indestructible. Nice. Or get rid of all creatures' activated abilities. Or do both if you really want to do that. Cool. Or, yeah, just destroy all creatures, or a combination of those things. So, yeah, I mean, at the least, this costs 2 mana for one of those lower effects. It costs 6 mana to destroy all creatures, which is higher than you want to usually pay. But again, it has the potential that you can pay 8 mana, get rid of everything that you need to get rid of, essentially, keep one of your creatures. Yeah, this is a very flexible card that can be really, really spicy. I think this one has a good amount of potential. Moving on. If I could click the button properly. There we go. Armored Armadillo. Now a card that is definitely nowhere near a staple, a 0/4 Armadillo that costs a single white mana. Anyone know the Friends episode with the holiday armadillo? Anyways, okay. Ward 1, pay 3 white, he gets +1 or +X with 0 till end of turn, X is toughness. I mean, if you're in a toughness tribal deck, definitely consider this one. Cool. Next up, Colossal Rattleworm, a 6/5 for 4 mana. Now, back in old-timey Magic, right, you'd be like, okay, what's the major downside of that one? Because it's got to have it. You lose all your other creatures, all your lands on tap ever, that kind of stuff. With this one's like, no, only upside. Magic. Has flash slow and control desert, so if you're playing in a desert deck, this can be a really heavy hitter. Out of nowhere, trample as well. Also pay 1 in a green, exile from your graveyard. So there's life for a desert from the battlefield tap, then shuffle. So basically like rampant growth, but for a desert. And also out of your graveyard. Can be quite nice. So yeah, desert decks can definitely consider this one. I don't know if it's really all that useful outside of desert decks, unless you're like, yeah, just caring about toughness, power and toughness with low cost. So yeah, if it's in like, I guess, what's that one bear deck that wasn't a bear? Goreclaw. There you go. 2 mana, 6/5 trample. You don't really care if you have deserts or not. Cool. Maybe just include like a desert or 2 in the deck just to like be able to get it out, or not to get it out, to be able to, you know, utilize it out of the graveyard too. Anyways, next up, Free Strider Lookout, a 3/3 human rogue with reach that costs 3 mana in green. Whenever you commit a crime, which again means targeting opponents and if they control and/or cards in their graveyards as a crime. Whenever you commit a crime, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land from on them on the battlefield, tap with the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This village triggers only once each turn. Okay, again, I usually rail against them being like, only triggers only once each turn, because I feel like that's lazy design instead of limiting it in other ways, but they would probably say different than that. This probably needs to be limited just because, again, when it comes to like, hey, ramping, yeah, things get out of control with ramping, especially again in Commander, where it's a no-no to destroy lands. Taboos. But yeah, essentially very, very good in any kind of a deck that has a good amount of targeting effects, or, yeah, I mean, targeting opponents, targeting anything they control, targeting cards in graveyards. You do that, and all of a sudden, you are way ahead. And again, it's only once each turn, but again, with each trip on the table, in a Commander game that's 4 players, right, you could target each, during each turn, essentially, and then you get 4 ramp. Lovely. Lovely. I'm sure there's some landfall craziness that can happen with this, too. Actually, I'm sure there are, right? There's probably, like, landfall, trigger, damage. So that's why this would probably go infinite. It has to be limited. Okay, fine, Wizards, fine. Next up, Frontier Seeker, a 2/1 human scout for 2 mana in white. Enters the battlefield, look at the top of the card's library and reveal a mount creature or a plains card from on the opponent in your hand. The rest is by random order. I guess if you have like a mount deck, yay. Other than that, don't use this just to get a plains. Okay, there's better cards out there. Next up, Gante is back. Oh my goodness. And Gante is like, hey, Sultai. Yeah, this is quite spicy. So a 5/5 Aetherborn Rogue for 5 mana in Sultai. Spells you cast but don't own cost 1 less to cast. So that would work well with the original Gante too, obviously. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type may be spent to cast that spell. Here's the thing that, just really quick, and this is somewhat embarrassing because I do this for a living. I didn't really realize until a little while ago that, like, you can't just look down face down cards that are yours. It's kind of weird. It's like, exile it face down. It's like, you can't look at that. It's yours, but you can't look at that. It's very strange. So it's like, look at it, then exile face down. So I guess rules lawyers out there, help me out real quick. If I forget what it is, do I forget what it is? Because, like, I looked at it, and then I put it face down. Can I then look at it? I would assume if you're going to be able to cast it. I don't know. Basically, what matters is, with this, hey, you get to cast things for reduced costs off the top opponent's libraries. Quite fun. There's probably other spells you can cast, too, from the, stealing their cards, that kind of stuff. I'm sure there are ways to do that in these colors. I mean, you're not in red, which is like impulse draw off the top of players' libraries, but you are in black, which has some stealing effects as well. Blue does too. Yeah, a very spicy commander, I believe. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this. This is a precon based commander, so I'm sure there's gonna be more cards that work really well with this. But yeah, I think it's very spicy to be like, hey, opponent's spell tribal. Yay. As a Villainous Wealth player, that's quite spicy. This one, unfortunately, doesn't really work with Villainous Wealth. It's not like, hey, you get those spells. Yeah, do extra stuff with them. Or it's like, whenever you cast one of those spells, get this. It doesn't do that. But it's still very spicy. And again, obviously, with this one, you're going to want to be able to get creatures through on players. It is limited to, like, 1 per player. Again, 1 or more creatures you control to a combination to a player. So, again, if you hit each player, even if it's with 10 creatures each, it's only 3 cards in total, 1 per each player. That being said, Double Strike would work with that too. And obviously, just having like a kind of like Flying Men deck, like low to the ground, 1/1 flyers, and that are evasive can be quite good with that to be able to get you a lot of additional free value with this. That plus ramp, plus having this in play can be quite spicy. Plus maybe Spark Double too. Why not? Anyways, double that up. Next up, Hard Bristle Bandon. A 1/1 plant rogue for 1 in a green. Tap at 1 may of any color. Whenever you commit a crime, untap it. Village triggers only once each turn. This one probably need to be limited as well. Wizards, fine, because it's probably too easy to use and abuse, because you can get mana, and then you can utilize that for like an activated ability that can like target an opponent, and then you can do it again, and then again, and again, and again. Fine, Wizards, you can limit it. Anyways, it's Mandork. Next up. Holy cow! I just wanted to point out, so, and my apologies if I actually cover any cards that I've actually already covered, because there were some leaks a little while back, a ton of leaks actually, and I can't remember exactly what I covered on all those. Make sure you check that episode at some point though, but it looks like all of them are essentially being confirmed as real cards, and holy cow, I just want to make sure I let everyone know this real card, which is an amazing name for it, a 2/2 Ox Angel with Flash and Flying. For 2 and a white, enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life, scry 1. Yeah, build an entire deck around this and take out your opponent with Holy Cow so you can yell, Holy Cow at them, and they're like, Holy Cow, it's coming to me! Very fun. Next up. Honest Rutstein. Rutstein. There we go. A 3/2 Hoon Warlock for 3 mana in Golgari. Old Rutstein? That's the one, right? That's in, not Eldraine. I don't know. Anyways, what was the school? The Harry Potter school. Was that what it was? Was that one old Rutstein? Anyways, is Rutstein back, apparently? Is this Rutstein? Or is that some other name? I don't know. Anyways, it enters the battlefield to target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Creature spells you cast cost once to cast. This might not seem like a lot, and again, it's an uncommon commander. This is incredibly powerful. If you build the deck around this properly, this is incredibly powerful, not because of the ETB. ETB, kind of take it or leave it a little bit, can come in handy, but the second part, cost reduction on creatures, crazy powerful. In fact, I've built, like, basically this deck already, but with, oh gosh, Umori. There we go. Names are escaping me right now. I mean, there's a ton of things happening right now. Anyways, Umori is essentially this plus an extra mana. It can be your companion. Actually, this plus Umori is your companion. Oh, yes! Okay, do that. So basically, again, with this, you, yes, reduce the cost of creature spells. What's the most broken thing that you could reduce the cost of, though? Anyone? Anyone? Artifacts. There are artifact creatures. By reducing their cost by 1, anyone that would cost 1 now costs 0. Also, if you have a Mori in your companion zone or whatever that's called, and you get that into play as well, reducing them all by 2 now because you can enter the battlefield and choose a card type. Reducing it all by 2, anything that costs 2, it's an artifact creature, down to 0. You basically just play all your creatures for free. You sacrifice them as sacrifice outlets. You draw cards with cards like Fecundity and stuff like that. You draw even more cards. You get things out of your graveyard. You put them back on top of your library. You get a ton of value. You sacrifice things. You drain your opponents. This can be very broken if built properly. And being able to play off the top of your deck could be a good thing too with that too. So yeah, you could do some crazy things with this. So just trust me when I tell you that just because it's uncommon does not mean this is not a very powerful commander. It can be very, very powerful. Next up. Crom, Violent Cacophony. Crom is back. Nope, no longer partnering. No partnering with Crom, but a 2/3 flying zombie that costs 4 mana and is it another uncommon commander, but one that is not very uncommon. What it does, whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a counter on Crom, Violent Cacophony, and draw a card. Notably, it doesn't say this only triggers only once each turn because it doesn't have to. There you go, Wizard, you built that in there because it's the second time you cast. Yeah, good job. This is basically Jorg and Ruin Diver, but essentially with a win condition on it being like, hey, I'm a flyer and I can get big. Yeah, being able to basically draw cards when you cast your second spell each turn, just do a bunch of spell slinger shenanigans, a bunch of cantrippy stuff on your opponent's turns, and have fun drawing those cards off of those cards, and then cards off of this. You can draw quite a bit. It's Fairy's Insight, Thought Reflection type cards can be great on this as well. Proliferate type effects, get more counters on this, make it even deadlier, etc., etc. Have fun smacking your opponents with a partnerless Crom. Next up, make your own luck. Sorcery for 5 mana in Simic. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may exile a non-mana card from among them. If you do, it becomes plotted. Put the rest in your hand. You may cast a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost, is what plotting is. Basically, Foretell 0 is kind of what this is. And apparently, we already had a Foretell 0 card, which was like a artifact creature, whatever it was. Anyways. Plotting is interesting. Yeah, being able to potentially, again, you're essentially right. You get the rest in your hands. So you are basically draw 2, cast a card for free out of the other one, essentially, on a later turn. Have fun. Goodness gracious. Just, yeah, the top 3 cards of your library, one of them you cast for free on a later turn, and the other 2 you get to draw for 5 mana. 5 mana, draw 3 is overcosted for the most part. I mean, obviously, like with Harmonize or like a lot of blue spells, that would tell you it's overcosted, but being able to save and basically cast a card for free out of those 3 is very, 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 very powerful. Especially if you can manipulate the top of your deck, know what's on top, essentially. Like, if you can, like, tutor into, like, Sylvan Tutor, like those kind of ones, a Worldly Tutor, the ones that get a creature on top of your deck, and you're like, okay, I tutored it up there. Blightsteel Colossus is cool. I cast this. Yay. I mean, it's not going to be cast right away, but on another turn, you're going to be able to cast that and just demolish your opponents. So it's a very, very, very powerful effect. Definitely really cool to see this out uncommon. Next up. Old Tech Matter Weaver, and let me know in the comments below. I believe this is part like the open the vault stuff or whatever. That's why the logo on this is different. Essentially, they backed off of doing a separate set like Aftermath because Aftermath was terrible and people hated it. So they're like, here. They're going to be in collector boosters, play boosters. Am I wrong on this? Let me know in the comments below, but I believe these cards are only going to be in collector and play boosters, so let me know. A 2/4 Human Artificer for 3 mana in white. Whenever you cast a creature spell, choose 1. Create a 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature token. Create a token's copy of target artifact token you control. That's pretty powerful. I mean, basically, at the very least, this is Torrens, essentially, right? Because Torrens is like, hey, when you're casting creatures, make creatures. And I know Torrens has the training and whatnot, but whatever. This one essentially is like, no, you either get that, or again, creating a token that's copy target artifact token you control is very, very powerful. If you just have 1 treasure in play, now essentially every single time you cast a creature spell, you get a treasure, which is essentially like, I mean, not ramping technically, it's like temporary mana advantage, but still incredibly powerful, like a saved ritual effect. Very, very, very good. And obviously, there's even more artifact tokens that you could have. I mean, if you make like an artifact token copy, like say Healy's Artistry, is that the card? Making like an artifact token copy of a creature, you can be like, okay, cool, I get this giant creature. Oh, I cast another creature, get a copy of that again. Oh, cast another creature, get another copy of that. You can do some very powerful things with a card like this. We'll see how expensive these are, because again, I think it's like only in collector and play boosters. And yeah, mythic level, this is probably gonna be pretty expensive, I would assume. No idea. Next up, playing the Heist. A sorcerer, 4 mana in blue. Surveil 3 if you have no cards in hand, then draw 3 cards. Interesting. Plot. So you can essentially play this on another turn, which is interesting because, yeah, you can just like, oh, I'm just going to save this until I meet that requirement. I mean, that's a pretty iffy requirement to have to meet just to draw Surveil 3, draw 3. Like, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Like, if you just had like Surveil 3, draw 3, cost 4, you'd be like, yeah, sign me up for that. Concentrate is 4 mana, draw 3, like Harmonize the exact same thing. But this like very conditional where like you have to be in dire straits to be like, yeah, I got value out of it. I mean, Surveil 3, I would not pay 4 mana for. Yeah, I mean, being able to save it is nice, but also like you might make some inopportune plays just trying to get down to like no cards in your hand just so you can utilize this to draw further. I don't know. Not really a big fan of this one. Next up, Quill Charger, a 4/3 porcupine mount. That's ironic. Again, mounts are, okay, let's talk about this card first. For 3 and a red, saddle 2, so you can tap, it is any number of creatures you control, total power 2 or more. Last episode I was like, is it any more than 1 essentially? Yeah, any number of creatures. This mount becomes saddled until end of turn, saddle and sorcery. So basically, same thing as Crew, essentially, but instead of it being a vehicle that turns into a creature, it's already a creature, and it's just like, hey, it gets an extra saddle effect when this happens. Because whenever this attacks while it's saddled, it gets +1/+2 and gains mass until end of turn. Yeah, I mean, that's if you get like a mountain tribal deck, cool. It's kind of funny though because it's a porcupine again. You're sitting on a porcupine. Probably not the smartest idea. Anyways, next up, Rattleback Apothecary. That's a name. 3/2 Gorgon Warlock. That's a creature type with Death Touch that costs 2 and a black. Whenever you commit a crime, target creature you control gains your choice of menace or lifelink until end of turn. 2 pretty good effects. I mean, yeah, that's not bad to be able to get those when you're committing crimes, but like, probably rather have, I don't know, Death Touch, something like that. So you can be like, okay, yeah, cool. I get rid of your thing. I get rid of the other thing. I don't know. Anyways, interesting. Next up, Ruthless Lawbringer, a 3/2 vampire assassin for 3 mana in Orzhov. Enters the battlefield. You may sacrifice a creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent. Quite nice. I mean, that is a pretty good effect. If you have, again, like a deck where you actually want to sacrifice things, maybe like an Aristocrat style deck, and sacrifice things is actually a good thing for you, cool. Sacrifice those creatures, get rid of any non-land permanent. Can be quite powerful, especially on an ETB that you could use and abuse potentially. Next up, Scorching Shot. Not for commander. Sorcerer, red, 5 damage to our creature. Not for commander, except for very, very, very specific decks. This is a card where it's like, hey, unlimited, cool, get rid of creatures. Commander, it's like, good for you. Well done. Well done. Good job. Okay, Slick Shot, Lockpicker. 2/3 human rogue for 3 mana in blue. Enters the battlefield, target its sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. Flashback cost equal to its mana cost. Plot for 2 and a blue. Pretty interesting in the way you can utilize this, obviously, where you're like, okay, like I save up, I plot this so I can use on another turn. So I've got all the mana I need for whatever card I'm going to get flashback to. Yeah, it's interesting. If you got a flashback kind of deck where you're utilizing cards in your graveyard, you can do some cool things with that. Next up, Stella Lee wild card. Looks like it's going to be another one of the Commander Precon Commanders. Commander Precon Commanders. There you go. As opposed to other kind of Precon Commanders. A 2/4 human rogue for 3 mana in Is It. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Tap, copy, target in sorcery spell you control. Choose two targets for the copy. Activate only if you've cast 3 or more spells this turn. That seems broken. Like, easily broken. Easily broken, Wizards. Oh my gosh, that is just so easily broken. Okay, so like, first of all, casting your second spell each turn, getting Impulse Draw until the end of your next turn. Play that card. That's nice. So again, that's like not quite as good again as like a Jorien, like draw the card. It's like, okay, until the end of your next turn, but like it basically still can be for a deck like this. It's very spell slingery and you can cast like low to the ground spells very quickly. But also, I mean, just at a base level, right, that like tap, copy, and a source spell is just very easily go infinite, right? Only cast 3 more spells. That's a very low bar to get to. Again, like opt, consider, dramatic reversal, game? Probably, right? Essentially, you're just like, okay, like, yeah, literally, I cast opt, 1 mana, draw a card. Cool. Scry. Consider. Exact same thing, but Surveil. That's 2 mana. 2 more mana, Dramatic Reversal. Cool. I've cast Dramatic Reversal. Oh, it's on the stack. I can activate my commander. I've already cast 3 or more spells this turn. I did that. I copied Dramatic Reversal. It is copied. It untaps all my non-land permanents, including this. Untaps my mana rocks too. Oh, cool. It's still on the stack. Tap. Copy it again. Tap. Copy it again. Tap. Copy it again. Am I missing something here? Hopefully I'm missing something glaring, because this seems way overpowered and really easy to use and abuse. Not difficult at all. I mean, even if you aren't going in that direction, I mean, let's go into an even kind of, not meaner direction, but like crazier direction. You're like, okay, I've got a bunch of extra turn spells in my deck. Great. Okay, so I cast my extra turn spell after casting like Opt to Consider or whatever, or like free spells too. Like, consider those as well. Okay, cool. I've cast those. Now, I'll tap this and take another extra turn. I mean, even without anything else. Okay, like being able to be like, okay, I cast Time Warp. Awesome. Time Warp? Which one's the Time Walk is 2. Time Warp is 5. I cast Time Warp. Cool. I copy that. Okay, I'm going to get an extra turn and then another extra turn. Oh, but wait, I've got this untap effect. Let me untap my commander. Cool. I do it again. Cool. This is busted. This is just busted. This is just busted. The fact that that's on a tap ability, which is very easy to use and abuse. Again, literally just, again, like I illustrated, just Dramatic Reversal. I mean, Dramatic Reversal is already a pretty broken card, but like anything that untaps your creatures with this is crazy. You're in red too, so you have threaten effects as well. Keep that in mind as well. I mean, like Mob Rule. Like Unis Mob Rule again as well, with like any kind of like Mandor creatures too. Or activate ability creatures. Goodness gracious. Okay, maybe I am misreading this, but let me know in the comments below, but that seems easily broken. Just very easily broken. And for a pre-con commander, I mean, I know sometimes they just want to push it because they're like, I want to sell a lot of these because I'm wizards. That's how they sound. Actually, that's how they talk. Just kidding. But you're like, I want to sell a lot of these. Push it, push it, push it. Kind of like with like when they were trying to sell Brawl pre-cons and they were like, Corvold, totally fair. No. Moving on. The key to the vault. Ledger artifact equipment for 1 in a blue. Equip 2 in a blue. Whenever equipped creature deals combat to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card that pays mana cost. Okay. I mean, flavor-wise, I think you probably should have been casting things off the top of an opponent's library. If you're like breaking into their vault, it's like you're hitting someone with a key to a vault, and then you're like, I opened my vault. Makes no sense, Wizards. Still very, very powerful. My goodness, yeah, any kind of equipment deck could definitely utilize this if you got ways to get that creature through, which you probably do with other equipment, most likely. But yeah, being able to hit someone for a lot. Again, look at that many cards top your library. So if you're going like Voltron 2 and you're hitting for like 18, and you're like, hit you for 18. They're like, oh my gosh, ouch. And then you're like, I'm going to look at the top 18 cards of my library and play one for free. And your opponents are like, oh my gosh, really? Okay. Why your library? Why not mine? Because it makes sense. Magic. Vault. Breaking into my own vault. Magic. Yeah, okay. Anyways. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Top of your library. I just had to triple check them, say that right. Again, casting on a land card, so basically you're never going to whiff as long as you're not just hitting all lands, because it's not like play the card, so you can't just like get a land. So as long as it's not a land, you get those. And again, it puts the cards at the bottom of your library, so you're not going to like mill yourself in a way, like kind of a moti? No, what are the Apex of Dreams, whichever that is. Anyways, pretty cool card, pretty interesting card. Not overpowered, I don't think, but definitely one that works well, specifically in equipment decks, specifically in like big creatures hitty decks, and of course, in a combination of those, Voltron. Yeah. Moving on. Transmutation Font. Oh, wait, forgot to mention. Double Strike works well with that too. There you go. Because you get it twice. Transmutation Font. Another card from like the Vault cards or whatever they are, I guess. Artifact for 5. Tap. Create your choice of a blood token, a clue token, or a food token. Glad they didn't put treasure on this, but it'd be like, the choice is always treasure. 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 Pay 3, tap, sacrifice 3 artifact tokens with different names. Search life for an artifact card from the battlefield shuffle. Active as a sorcery. Okay. Okay, Wizards. I see what you did here. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, you put this in just a deck that can make these kinds of tokens, or like can at least untap this, and you're like, okay, cool. I sacrifice. And again, it says artifact tokens with different names. It doesn't say like, it could kind of. This is one where I'm like, I think it probably should just say like non-creature artifact tokens, because like you shouldn't be able to count servos and like Thopter's in there, but makes it easier to get to. It's fine, I guess. But yeah, if you just have like treasures in your deck, clues, you can get this pretty quickly, or an on-tap effect with this. And then you're just like, okay, cool. Sacrifice those things. And this actually doesn't sacrifice itself, which maybe it should. You're just like, okay, go get Blightsteel Colossus. Game over. It's not game over. Yes, technically, rules lawyers out. I mean, it's not rules lawyers really, but it's like, it's not game over, but basically. Or like a Mycosynth Lattice, which can combo a lot of things. Mycosynth, whatever it is. Yeah, it's a very spicy card. Do I think it's for a lot of decks out there? No. But is it very spicy, and I'm going to be terrified when I see this because the art is just grossly amazing, number one. Number two, because it's like, oh, how many differently named artifact tokens do they have? 2. Oh, no. Okay, well, they just need to activate that once, and then they're going to use this, and they probably got Blightsteel. We all need to look out at it. Luckily, it is sorcery speed, though, so that limitation probably is pretty nice for if you're defending against it. But, yeah, quite the interesting card. Next up, Unfortunate Accident. Instant for a single black mana, but we got a plus sign, so that means it is a spree card. Wait until the day when, like, that's not the case. Or actually, maybe even later in the set, they have, like, the plus sign, but something different. It just throws me off. Choose one or more additional costs. We've got a 2 and a black to target creature, so basically worse murder in that way, because it's 4 mana. Or +1, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap target creature you control gets +1 with 0 till have turn, active on sorcery. Interesting that they paired these two with it, because it's like take out a creature and also get a 1/1. Those things don't really pair. I mean, like, other things are more synergistic that we've seen so far with these sprees. Those don't really pair too well, I guess, but it's like, it's not too bad, I guess, at the end of the day. Yeah, probably better for limited. 2 mana for a 1/1 that pumps is not that great, just on its own. 4 mana for a murder is not that great either. Yeah, probably not a card that you're going to see playing Commander. Regardless, I just want to complain one more time, in case I don't get a chance again. Activating the sorcery is boring for the most part. Not really needed on most things Wizards puts it on, and definitely was not needed on those mercenaries. Next up, Vault-Born Tyrant, a dinosaur. I bet you didn't expect to see dinosaurs on this set, but they're probably just going to keep throwing those in, because players love dinosaurs. A lot of dinosaur fans out there. A 6/6 dinosaur trample that was hidden in the vault for some reason, which is on your deck, apparently. For 7 mana in green. Trampling, whenever it or another creature with power 4 greater enters the battlefield under control, gain 3 life, draw a card. Okay. So I didn't even read this one until now. Yeah. Gross. When it dies, if it's not a token, create a tokenless copy of it except an artifact of other types. Gross. Okay, so that pairs really well with that other one that can copy artifact tokens. Yeah. I mean, what is it? Garrick's Pack Leader? What is the one? So one's like a 3/3. I think it's Garrick's Pack Leader. Whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield, draw a card. This is like that plus some, because it's like, hey, yeah, cool. I'm a big dinosaur, number 1, so you're going to throw me in a dinosaur deck. Great. But also you're going to play creatures with power 4 or greater. Great, because you're going to do that. You're going to gain a bunch of life. Cool. 3 life. Whatever. Who cares? All right, draw cards. Yeah, it's great. Great. Okay, cool. By the way, when I die, I don't really die. I come back into play. Yeah. Gross. Yeah, also with like doubling season type effects and a kind of a token doubler, getting 2 of these in play instead. Also would see each other, obviously. And also, keep in mind, it is when this enters the battlefield. Again, whenever this or another creature in the battlefield, so you already get to gain 3 life and draw a card just when this comes into play. When it dies, you can do that again. This seems very powerful. Definitely mythic worthy. I mean, I guess, are they really actually mythics? Technically, kind of like they're all probably just rated as mythics, right? Because they're like in those collector booster things or whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of products. It's hard to keep track of all that. But this seems very, 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 very powerful. And dinosaur players out there are going to be like, yes, dinosaurs! Rawr. All right, let's move forward. Next up, Vial Smasher is back. Also lost partner. It's just kind of funny, like with like Vial Smasher and Crom, it's like, we're friends with these others. Nope, no longer friends on my own. Okay. Vial Smasher, Gleeful Grenadier. I know how to say that name. It's like Grenade Ear. They throws grenades. Got it. 3/2 Goblin Mercenary for 2 mana in Rakdos. Grenadier? Grenadier. Grenadier. Grenadier? Anyways, whenever their outlaw enters the battlefield under your control, Vial Smasher deals 1 to target opponent. Wizards target, really? It couldn't be each opponent? It's an uncommon, I guess. Did you really need to limit it that way? Come on. Vial Smasher. I guess, okay, the original Vial Smasher also does, like, random damage, right? Okay, if you're going to do it this way, where it's target opponent, right, it should just be random opponent, and it should be 2 or 3 damage, okay? Come on. With the Vial Smasher kind of like funness, why not? So it's either random and extra damage, or it is every opponent. Okay, Wizards, change it right now. You can't do that. Okay, anyways. Assassins, Mercenaries, Pirates, Rogues, and Warlocks are Outlaws. That's a new thing from the set. It's kind of like a mean party, I guess I would say. So, like, party was its own thing, which, to me, and this one's like, hey, yeah, evil guys. So, go get a bunch of evil guys, probably ones that can make tokens and just make a lot of them. Because, again, it doesn't say, like, non-token. So, also, like, mass reanimation effects can work well with this. Mass copy effects can work well with this. I'm just talking about within this color, right? Obviously, like, a blink effect would be great, but you don't have blink effects in these colors, really. So, yeah, make them enter the battlefield, ping a bunch of players, and probably, damage doublers, life loss doublers, damage triplers, potentially. Maybe that's why the Wizards limited it, but, like, come on. Change it. Change it to, again, like, ETB random opponent 3 damage. Lightning bolt to a random opponent's face. Come on. Or each opponent. Anyways, not each opponent 3, each opponent 1. Moving on. Yuma, Proud Protector. 310 to Yuma? That was a movie, right? I think. Yeah, anyways. 6/6 Human Ranger for 8 mana in Naya. Okay. Cost 1 less, cast for each card link on your grip. That makes sense. There we go. Again, I haven't read some of these. Enters the battlefield or attacks, you may sacrifice a land if you do draw a card. Or a desert card is put in your graveyard from anywhere. Create a 4/2 green plant warrior creature token with reach. It seems like they just combined a bunch of different commanders together, kind of, essentially. Like, okay, so this is, I guess, another one of our commander precon face commanders. Apparently the Naya Desert stack. Okay, so they basically combined, gosh, what's the one? Not Corvold. What's the spirit one that's like cost 1 less for each creature in your graveyard? Eddie's first commander, I believe, was that. Whatever that one is. It's like a Minotaur. Dude, I don't even know. Okay, that one is kind of like the first part. The second part is Corvold, where it's like enters the battlefield, attack, sacrifice. That one's like a permanent. This is a land specifically. Draw a card. This one doesn't get a counter on it. Wizards with Corvold. And then also, whenever a desert from your grave from anywhere, make a 4/2. Yeah, that's basically, what's the green one? All the names are escaping me right now, but you get a 5/3 elemental when that happens. Anyways. Titania? I think that's that. This is like literally putting 3 different... Ghost Chieftain, is that the first one? This is putting 3 different commanders into one and being like, it does all the things. Yay. Yeah, ETB or attack, sacrifice a land, draw a card is very powerful, especially if you've got ways to get those lands back. Yeah, interesting. I don't know what to say. It's going to be an interesting desert commander because deserts are getting more support with this set, which is nice. Giving this some desert support is very cool. And again, it is desert from anywhere, so keep that in mind. That does include milling yourself. So like there could be a deck around this where it's just literally like you mill yourself a ton and then you hit a bunch of creatures that are 4/2s and you have like a War Storm Surge in play, or you just have like a haste effect or like extra combats and you take opponents out in that way. So keep that in mind. And also it helps get your commander out quicker too with that, with getting those in your graveyard ahead of time. Interesting. Next up. Okay, it's like a Cactus Tarantula. Cactarantula. Got it. 6/5 Plant Spider, because that's a thing. That is terrifying. That costs 6 mana in green. Costs 1 cast if you control a desert. Cool, it costs 5. Reach. Whenever it comes to target of a spell ability, opponent controls draw a card. Don't target it, opponents. I mean, in limited, that's what's going to happen. Okay, it's a limited card. Next up, Double Down. That's some cool artwork. Enchantment for 4 mana in blue. Mythic, let's see if it lives up to it. Whenever you cast an outlaw spell, copy that spell. Okay, so Assassins, Mercenaries, Pirates, Rogues, Warlocks, or Outlaws. Again, copies of Burning Souls come tokens. Yeah, if this is in an Outlaws deck, it's just double up all your Outlaws. Neat. It's kind of like Reflections of Lit Jara, but specifically for Outlaws, which is nice. So it's kind of like more specific, but broader, because Reflections of Lit Jara is only for one creature type, but you pick it. This one is, no, I picked the creature types for you, but you get all of them. Keep in mind, you do get changelings too with this, because they are all creature types. Yeah, I mean, pretty interesting. If you've got a commander that maybe has an ETB, and you'd like to use and abuse it with, that's either an assassin, a mercenary, a pirate, a rogue, a warlock, whatever those, consider that. But also just, hey, if you've got a bunch of those, if you've got a tribal deck around these, yeah, you can utilize it. It's very specific, but can be very, very good, obviously. Next up, Form a Posse. Sorcery for X, red and green. Create X 1-red mercenary creature tokens with tap, target creature control. Pose 0 until turn, activate sorcery. Gotta complain one more time. Activate only sorcery. Lame on this, Wizards. Lame. You're being lame. Lame. Let players do combat tricks with these. Your opponents can just have to figure out how they're going to swing at you when you have all these mercenaries back and you're like, I can pump this or pump that. Or if I'm swinging at someone, they've got to figure out their blocks. Lame. Regardless, being able to create a giant mercenary army is quite nice. Sorcery speed does limit this, obviously, compared to another card like Secure the Wastes, which is instant speed, gives you a bunch of 1/1s that don't have like an ability to tap, but instant speed trumps this in some ways. So yeah, it's not bad, not amazing, but if you got a deck that likes to make a lot of tokens, cool. Next up, Jolene, Plunder Queen, Plundering Pugilist. 4/2 human mercenary for 3 mana in Gruul. Whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures with power 4 or greater, create a treasure token. Okay. That's limited. Oh, there's someone's boots. Oh, Jolene. I was like, why are those boots in there? Jolene punched someone so hard that their boots fell off, and they're still flying in the air, apparently. That's amazing. Pay 1 red, sacrifice a treasure, 1 damage any target. Okay, I mean, like, you get 1 treasure. Good for you. You attack with a creature power 4 or greater, you get 1 treasure. If you attack with 18 million creatures with power 4 or greater, you get 1 treasure. You can sacrifice them to 1 damage any target. This is the worst out of all the uncommon commanders we've seen so far, in my opinion. Next up, Lazav, Familiar Stranger, a 1/4 shapeshifter for 3 mana in Dimir. Whenever you commit a crime, get a counter on this. You may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If a creature card is exiled this way, you may have Lazav become a copy of that card until end of turn. End of turn, wizards! Why? Ability triggers only once each turn. Wizards, why until end of turn? I mean, I guess it gets uncommon, but like, come on. Okay, I mean, I guess you build it up throughout the game. You can also, like, commit crimes on opponent's turns to, like, save Lazav if you have, like, hexproof creatures in your graveyard and that kind of stuff as well. Meh. You limit it too much, Wizards. Meh. Next up, Miriam Herd Whisperer, a 3/2 human druid who whispers to horses. That costs 2 mana in Selesnya. As long as it's your turn, mounts and vehicles you control have hexproof. That's amazing. Whenever a mount or vehicle control attacks, get a counter on it, so... Vehicle, mount, tribal. Yeah, that's exciting. That's spicy. And that's also just kind of weird because it's like, I mount this creature, which goes into this vehicle. So I'm like riding a horse, which is inside of a car, and it's driving the car. Is it driving the car or am I driving the car? I don't know. Anyways, quite interesting. But yeah, being able to get extra counters on creatures are nice. And then only as long as it's your turn. Wizards, come on. What's wrong with hexproof? I know some players hate boggles out there, but come on. If you're being this specific, again, make this into like a 1/2, whatever. Make it a 0/2, and then be like, sure, hexproof every turn. Much better. Please. Come on. Stop limiting things when you don't need to limit them. It's already specific enough. Next up, Mobile Homestead. Cool, it's just a mobile house. A 3/3 vehicle for 2 mana. Has haste as long as you control a mount. Whenever it attacks the top card of your library, it's a land card. You may put on the battlefield tapped, crew 2. So we do have a vehicle in this as well. Interesting. Top card library, land card, battlefield tapped. We already have one of those. What is that one? Is that one on hit or is that one on attack? I think it's on attack. It's like a telescope. Explorer scope, maybe something like that. Anyways. Interesting. Vehicle stack. Congratulations. Next up. Rackish Crew. An enchantment for 2 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap to our creature. You control gets +0 until turn next with sorcery. Whenever an outlaw control dies, you don't lose 1 life, you gain 1 life. Very specific. Whatever that one, like, there's an enchantment that basically is the exact same thing, except gives you like a 1/1 soldier or whatever it is. But it's also not as specific to this one. This obviously can work very well in like aristocrat style outlaw deck. Outside of that, meh. Next up. Satoru the Infiltrator, a 2/3 human ninja rogue that costs Dimir colors. Menace, whenever it and or 1 or more other non-token creatures under battlefield under control. If none of them were cast or no mana spent to cast them, draw a card. Interesting. Okay. Let's read that one more time just to make sure. Whenever it and or 1 or more other non-token creatures. It's a lot of text right there. Basically, if you're going to be getting things into play, cheat them into play or get them into play without spending mana to cast them, one at a time. If none of them are cast or misspent to cast them, draw a card. So, like, yeah, I mean, you can utilize a couple different, like, effects to actually get things into play. Is it just from your hand? And enter the battlefield under your control. If no mana spent to cast them, so, like, reanimation works for this too, then, I guess? Right? So, reanimation works for this. Plotting works for this. Other free mana things work to cast this. Ninjutsu, I think, would work for this then, too, because it's not... Is it cast? Isn't it just a cast? I think it's a cast. Maybe it's not a cast. Anyways. Getting a lot of free cards out of this, though, that is really good. Again, like, you don't want to just do it all at once, because, like, if you just, like, mass reanimate, you're only getting 1 card because it's 1 or more. But if you are doing it, you know, 1 at a time, yeah, quite good. So, yeah, it's a very interesting, low-to-the-ground, value-centric commander that can be built in a very interesting way. Cool. Next up, Trained Arenix. Don't know. 3/1 Cat Beast mount for 2 mana in white. Whenever it attacks while saddled, it gains first strike till turn. Scry 1, saddle 2. Yeah, a limited card. Next up. Olivia, Opulent Outlaw. This is one I'm going to cover a couple of cards that work well with it at the end of this episode, so stay tuned. A 3/3 Vampire Assassin with flying and lifelink for 4 mana in Mardu. Whenever one or more Outlaws you control to accommodate your player, create a treasure token. Again, a reminder, Assassins, Mercenaries, Pirates, Rogues, and Warlocks are Outlaws. Pay 3, sacrifice 2 treasures, put 2 counters on each creature you control, active and sorcery. Wizards, why limit things in that way? Why? Is it a feel bad if I attack with my army, then my opponent's block in a certain way, and then I sacrifice my things to give my creatures more power? You need to plan ahead of time, Mitch. Quiet, Wizards. Be quiet. Or just before your turn, you can utilize mana. I mean, even without that, again, this is still very, 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 very powerful. It does have a limiting factor, which is probably needed again when it comes to, like, deals combination to a player, create a treasure token. Again, it's 1 or more, so, like, you're not, like, getting, gosh, what's the name? The pirate one. Why do I always reconnaissance, same thing, whatever it is. Coastal Piracy, that's the card. Triggering on hitting an opponent to draw a card for those. This is getting treasure tokens. The treasures come into play untapped. Wizards, please slow down on treasures. That being said, this is quite powerful. Yeah, if you're hitting all your opponents, right, with your evasive creatures, which these kind of creatures do sometimes have some evasiveness to them, yeah, you get 3 treasures, which is very, very, very powerful. If you hit them maybe again with some extra combats, that's even more. If you maybe double strike, that's even more. There's some combos you can do in that. Yeah, this can be quite powerful. So a very exciting commander for a precon again. Seems like they pushed a little bit on these. Just a little bit. I mean, some more than others. Especially that one that dramatic reversals till the end of time. But yes, a very, very, very powerful commander indeed, and one that I think is going to be pretty popular. So with all that said, let's jump into some cards that work well with it in case you're interested in this one. First, let's start things off with the budget buys. Again, cards that are less than $1 with my budget. So yeah, first up we got Breach's Eager Pillager. Essentially, if you've got Outlaws, like an Outlaw Tribal kind of deck with this one, it's like, hey, does it have the creature type? Cool. Does it say whenever blank creature type does something, get something? Yes. Make sure you're considering those cards, like this one. A 3/3 Goblin Pirate, first strike for 3 mana. Whenever a pirate you control attacks, choose one that's been chosen this turn. Create a treasure token. Target creature can't block this turn. Exile top card of your library you may play this turn. So essentially, hey, if you got a bunch of pirates in play, you get a lot of extra value, including more treasures. Yay, Wizards, treasures. Okay, next up. Breaches again! Brazen Plunderer, a 3/3 Goblin Pirate for 4 mana. Menace, whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents, exile a top card of each of those libraries. If you play those cards this turn, you may spend mana of any color to cast those spells. Extra value for you. Have fun. Next up, Queen Marchesa. Yeah, you're going to be aggressive with this kind of deck. You can get through with this kind of a deck. Marchesa helps you with that. A 3/3 Human Assassin for 4 mana. Death Touch and Haste. Enters the battlefield. You become the Monarch. Nice. Extra card advantage for you. If your opponents take it from you, you're going to take it back. Beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent is the Monarch, put a 1/1 black assassin creature token on the battlefield with Death Touch and Haste in the battlefield. I just said it twice. Anyways, making tokens that are also part of your Outlaws, that can be quite nice. Next up, Rankle Master of Pranks, a 3/3 Fairy Rogue for 4 mana with flying and haste, so swing right away evasively. Nice. Deals combat to a player, choose any number, so again, an extra value out of dealing combat damage. That is huge. Each player discards a card. Each player loses 1 life, draws a card. Each player sacrifices a creature. Pick whatever works best for you, or all of them. Again, choose any number. Next up, Course of Recruiter. Everything's a pirate. 4/3. Whenever another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn. It gains haste and becomes a pirate, which is relevant with this commander again because it is an outlaw then, just other types. So very, very, very powerful. And again, get more and more pirates into play, steal more and more things, which then become pirates. Speaking of pirates, Port Razor, a 4/4 orc pirate for 5 mana. Whenever deals combat to a player, untap each creature you control after this combat phase, control combat phase. Can't attack a player, it's already attacked this turn. Getting a lot of extra combats can be amazing, especially that you're probably going to have some ways to get creatures through because, yeah, you can benefit from that from your commander. So being able to get this through 1, 2, 3 times can be absurdly game-ending broken. And again, keep in mind, every single time you get through again with your creatures, with your Outlaws, you're getting even more treasure tokens. So again, you're not just limited to 3 in a turn. The limitations are a bit higher, especially if you've got, again, like a Rage Reflection. Creatures you control have double strike. Yeah, please. Being able to hit once, hit twice with each of your creatures again. Although you were limited to, again, 1 or more creatures, You're hitting with first strike, and then you're hitting a second time, so you are getting 2 treasure tokens per opponent that you're hitting. So now instead of it just being 3, it's 6. Again, if you have extra combats, it could be like 12, 18, whatever it is, an absurd amount of treasures. Again, those treasures don't come to play tapped, because Wizards sometimes knows what they're doing and sometimes doesn't know what they're doing, and just making more treasure things is not knowing what you're doing, in my opinion. And also make those treasures come into play untapped is also not knowing what you're doing. Crazy broken things. I mean, just think about all this with, what is Aggravated Assault? What's the one where you just keep paying again and again and again to get extra combats? Infinite. Crazy times. Next up, though, it's one of the pricier picks. Again, cards that are outside of my budget, but might be within yours. Regardless, all these cards are in a card list in the description below. Make sure you check that out. And Dothy Voidwalker. Yeah, the card where they just threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at it. That's a good card, because it's a rogue, which is an outlaw, a 3/2 Dothy rogue for 2 mana, shadow, so it can't be blocked, essentially, unless the opponent has a shadow creature. They probably don't. They also can't block, but who cares? If a card would put in an opponent's grave from anywhere, exile it instead with a void counter on it. Already very good. Just graveyard hate right there. Oh, by the way, tap, sacrifice this, choose an exiled card. Opponent owns a void counter on it. Play this turn with paying its mana cost. Get something for free. Gross. This is a gross card. Very gross card. Okay? And yes, it's basically unblockable, so very good with this commander too. Next up. Speaking of gross, I don't really need to give this card too much attention, because Dockside Extortionist, a card that was debated to be banned for a while, probably should have been banned, is crazy good. $78 for a reason, a 1/2 Goblin Pirate. It is a pirate for 2 mana. And just battlefield make extra tokens extra for artifacts and change your opponent's control. Absurd. Usually like, hey, at least 10 plus, potentially. And when you play this, a giant ritual effect, essentially, and yeah, could be even more than that. Also, you can utilize those treasures again with your commander to like pump your entire team if you really want to do that, or just utilize them for other nefarious schemes. Card that can go infinite with a lot of things too. It's crazy good. Next up, Opposition Agent, a crazy mean card. 3/2 Hoon Rogue with Flash for 3 and a black. You control your opponents while they search in the libraries. While an opponent searches the library, you may exile a card they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. You may spend mana as long as any color cast them. Basically, you steal your opponent's cards that they're tutoring for. That's essentially what this does. So, yes, tutors happen. Yes, even if it's not just like an actual just like demonic tutor where they're tutoring for anything, it's like, oh, I played a Rampant Growth. And you're like, now it's mine because I flashed this in and I stole your land. You're welcome. Or Evolving Wilds, those kind of things too. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to just steal things from your opponents with this card, and your opponents are going to hate you for it, probably. Not hate, dislike. Anyways, next up, Grim Hireling, another rogue that is very powerful. 3/2 Tiefling Rogue for 4 mana. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat to a player, create 2 treasure tokens. So basically, a better version of your commander in a way, but not quite 2. Again, basically 2 treasure tokens per player that you're hitting. You can also sacrifice X treasures by paying a single black mana to give a target creature minus X plus X till turn, X plus sorcery. This is absurd with your commander. Again, basically making 3 treasures per player that you're hitting is crazy good in combination. And also, with those treasures, you can take creatures out to make it easier for your creatures to get through. Moving on. Pitiless Plunder, another way to make treasures with a pirate. There you go. Again, all these outlaws are like treasures, 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 treasures. 1 for a human pirate for 4 mana. Whenever the creature you control dies, create a treasure token. Yeah, I mean, very, 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 very good. Wizards finally reprinted it, dropped it down from like $10 down to $4, even though it's, you know, an uncommon still. Yeah, very, 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 very powerful. Nothing else to say about that. You're just going to get a lot of treasures out of it. Berserker's Onslaught. Yeah, I wish they'd reprint this one. It's like a better Rage Reflection in a way, but worse another way, but basically better in my opinion. Enchantment for 5 mana, attacking creature control double strike. Typically, when you want that double strike, it is on attack. You're going to be aggressive. And again, with like combat damage triggers like these, that's what you care about. You don't care about like defensive blocking with double strike for the most part. I mean, you do. Sometimes it does come in handy, like, I can block more effectively. But most of the time, you're like, I'm going to be aggressive and hit you, which is what you're going to be doing with this commander. Yeah, Wizards reprinted. I don't think you've ever reprinted this one. Reprint it. You also probably got to reprint this one again. A Chroma's Memorial. My goodness. Legendary artifact for 7. Creature control of flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection red, protection black. If you can't get through with damage with this in play, I don't know what you're doing. You definitely should be able to. So yeah, being able to find ways to get your entire team through, or at least a couple of creatures through. Again, you already can have some like evasive creatures in Outlaws, but being able to give like your entire team evasion in some ways, like again, flying, trample, I guess is not evasion, but going through with damage. Pro black, pro red can be amazing because again, being able to get those treasures is huge with this commander. So yeah, a lot of crazy things you can do with it. But now this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts about all these crazy spoilers. My goodness, there's so many on the first day. Again, it seems like always first day is like blah. Second day is like third day blah. And yeah, Let's see what we get tomorrow. Unless we got like 500 cards in these sets. We got a lot of cards today. Regardless, I'm not sure if things are going to slow down or not, so make sure you're staying to this channel for more quick takes and spoilers. Exciting ones, I'm sure, are going to be coming out still, although I don't think the floodgate of amazing, like an absurdly crazy number of spoilers is going to be coming out every single day, but still, we're seeing some amazing ones too, I am sure. Yeah, if you're interested in those cards that work really well with Olivia, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And of course, as always, stay tuned to this channel. And as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.